Good afternoon. I am Tine Riis Andersen, and I'm a PhD candidate doing a joint degree between the University of Stavanger in Norway and Trnava University in Slovakia. Today I'll present the findings from our first paper, which is a work in progress. The title and focus of the presentation has changed a bit since the abstract for IGEL, and I will not be able to say much about transformative reading experiences related to specific text. It's taken me longer time than expected to analyze the data for the first paper. So instead, I will today present how shared reading overall was experienced as an open space that creates an environment for transformation and support for cancer patients. My study is a qualitative evaluation study. The aim is to point attention to shared reading's potential in cancer organizations and provide knowledge and a theory of how shared reading might work as a coping mechanism. My research question is, how do adults diagnosed with cancer experience participating in either an on-site or online shared reading group? Shared reading is a specific literary activity contextualized in reading groups, developed and practiced within the UK-based program Get Into Reading. There is extensive research in shared reading's effect on mental health on different target groups, but not on cancer patients, which is where my study is a valuable contribution to the shared reading field. In practice, it's a group of people, including a reader leader, who reads prose text and a poem out loud and talk about it, what they have read during the reading. A session is 1.5 hours, and there is no preparation for the participants. The text is read aloud, but the participants also have a copy in hand, or it is shared on the screen so they can follow it. Shared reading is a live reading experience. It's not retrospective as in a book club. There is no therapeutic target, but it's a literary engagement that is foregrounded. And it has focused on experiences, not a literary analysis. I look at reading experiences in a different context than individual reading in reader response, where it's the interaction between the book and the reader. Instead, I look at reading in a shared reading context and how reading together with other people over time might transform the reader, and how the group and the whole experience of participating in the reading group becomes integrated in the reading experience. So the reading experiences occurs in a web of intra and interpersonal processes. In shared reading, you could say that there are two parallel reading experiences. First, the text is mediated and interpreted through the reader leader, reading the text out loud. Second, the participant can follow the text himself, so it goes more directly from text to participant. So even though cancer is a somatic disease, which is of course foregrounded in treatment and should be, it is also a disease that impacts psychological health. It can cause psychosocial problems and lead to a crisis because of loss of meaning, loss of control, and suddenly facing questions about mortality, identity, and the future. Studies have pointed to the importance of psychosocial interventions or activities as a support for cancer patients. And a report from WHO concludes that the arts can provide a holistic lens to view conditions that are often treated primarily as physical. In my study, I will show how shared reading as a literature-based activity was experienced as beneficial and a support for the challenges and need which are common for cancer patients who are under or have finished cancer treatment. I have set up and collected data from 2 reading groups in Norway, one online and one on-site. The groups met for 16 weeks and there were 12 participants in total. Some adjustments was made for the target group. For example, we had a break between the short story and the poem, which is not normally something you do in shared reading. And we use rather short stories and without too many shifts in time. Sometimes the reader leader would reread the first part And we would also use a long time on the concrete level in the text, so establishing the who, when, where, what of the story. These adjustments was made because the participants' ability to focus and concentrate was limited, and some of them got tired quickly. The reader leader chose the text based on own gut feeling, and there were no text which was directly about cancer, but still the participant read their life situation into the text sometimes. In the beginning, I have collected the background information from the participants. During the reading group, I did participant observation of all sessions, supported by field notes and audio recordings. Then the participant filled out 2 post-reading questionnaires, one for the short story and one for the poem, in the end of the session. And after the 16 weeks, I did focus group discussions with both groups, and now I'm conducting some individual interviews with the participants based on what came up in the focus groups. This paper is based mainly on the transcript for the focus groups, which I have analyzed using qualitative open coding with an inductive approach to see what is in the data. I first analyzed the data in the program in vivo and then continued manually. The manual process looked like this. So a lot of categorizing and looking for overlap and themes, and that is also called axial coding. The outcome from this process was 4 themes, which captured the most important aspects of the experience of the reading group, and a process model illustrating the themes and core processes in shared reading, and self-determination theory as a suitable theoretical framework. Self-determination theory is a motivational theory of personality development and social processes. The theory proposes that we have 3 basic psychological needs: the need for competence, relatedness, and autonomy. And satisfaction of these needs promotes motivation and enhances well-being. A study found that cancer patients, due to side effects from treatment, are challenged in the satisfaction of the need for competence, relatedness, and autonomy. This I have also found reflected in my data because they're not able to do the same things. They don't feel they're contributing as much to society, to work, to their family as they did before they got sick. The need for relatedness is also thwarted as it's difficult to communicate the illness experiences to others, and fatigue makes it difficult to maintain social networks. Overall, the autonomy is also challenged, as the cancer is not something they choose or can have control over, and they have to follow a treatment which affects them negatively. And on top of that, the cognitive impairment had also made it demanding to focus and remember when reading alone, and many had completely stopped reading, although they identified themselves as readers, and literature was an important part of their life. This was also the motivation for them to participate in the reading group, to get back to reading. These are the 4 themes put together, and I will start with the open space. Open space is connected to the participant's description of the atmosphere as a safe space. A participant described the room with these words. And then there is no fact list. There is room for, just as in life, there is room for everything. No matter what we think, mean, and feel, then everything is allowed, right? Open space is constructed of many factors. One of them was that there were mutual understanding, a shared embodied experience of living with cancer. So they didn't have to explain much to each other. Everyone had experienced fatigue or problems with focus and memory. They were on the same page. It was also essential that the group provided a space and setting where they could talk about cancer, but also about other things. A balance between cancer and life. The participant talked about their cancer story as something they had with them, in the reading group, and which came to the surface when the text gave language or imagery to reflect on and express the illness experiences. In that way, the sharing of cancer happened more naturally than in other settings where there is a more therapeutic target, for example, as in a group therapy session. In the open space, a process of self-expansion took place. The combination of a safe space, and meeting a text that is multi-layered, where things can be interpreted in different ways, led to an open discussion, sharing and listening to multiple perspectives on the text. And this, they said, opened and expanded an internal space in them, making room for others' ways of thinking and challenging their own. It was an aha experience that they had different perspectives on the text. And this was something they said they had learned or was reminded about in the reading group. And in some cases, this also impacted their way of being outside the reading group, starting to think in alternative, multiple perspectives. I don't have to choose some things here. Like my way of understanding things is one thing, but you understand in a completely different way, which can be just as correct what you understand, right? I believe it was kind of good for me. And when, for example, she said something or you said something, then I thought, wow, it can also be understood in that way. And then I started to reflect more, and then I could attach myself to what had been said. The second theme is disconnecting through connecting. It is related to this parallel activity of reading and listening. It was by focusing on the literary engagement that they said they were able to disconnect from cancer treatment and being unwell and in general life worries. It helped them to be here and now, which involved being present in the moment and not planning ahead. They explained it as coming to the reading group with an open mind and being served a literary text, a literary experience, which was richer than if they had read it with the text alone. The combination of reading aloud in a slow tempo and reading themselves was also described as a structured activity for cognitive training. And as many of them were not able to read alone anymore because of cognitive impairment, the reading group was a way to still have access to reading literature and to good reading experiences. I think what is nice here by coming here is that you get a free minute, right? That you forget everything in a way and you go into the text, and that is where you have focus, right? So I believe that is important. The third theme is community. Community is the experience of belonging and to be part of a collaborative social environment which the participant regarded as meaningful for them and that they prioritized. The positive feedback from the reader leader to the participants' input made the participant feel important and that their contribution was valuable for the group. It's also the experience of meeting other people with cancer, a mutual understanding that strengthened the feeling of relatedness. Now I work 30% this autumn, and earlier I have practically not worked. This thing to feel important for someone, because that is what I felt here, that I have been an important person in this group. I feel that you have communicated that to me, that I am important in this group, and to know that has been important in my life, to have a thing in my daily life where I still have a significance. Because at my work, well, I have a workstation and some tasks, but I'm not important in the same way as I was earlier when I worked full-time. So it has been very important for my life now. So in that way, the group has been meant a lot for my illness and recovery. The fourth theme is resonances and echoes. Resonances and echoes is the experience of feeling a connection between the text of the group and themselves. And this can also be visualized as a core process in a session. So recognition turned out to be important for if a text resonated in the participants. It was often something recognizable in the text or the group discussion, which they could relate to their own life that was important. So this process would often trigger an uncontrolled memory or reminding, and some of them were shared in the open space, which strengthened the community feeling, as it was through the personal stories they got to know each other. It also added spontaneity to the group, to the open space, because the participants did not decide or know beforehand which remindings or personal stories a story would trigger. A participant explained it in these words. Like suddenly there comes something from someone, and then it starts a thinking process in us, or feelings, and then we talk about it. And after a session, the resonances becomes echoes. An echo can, for example, disappear when leaving the room or log out of the reading group, which means they forget all about the text. It can also come back later, like when a text kept coming back to their mind. They can also echo for a longer time. Here they talked about a text that stayed inside them, and then can be reinforced and become stronger again by keeping the text reading experience alive, for example, by telling others about it, rereading, Googling the author to get closer to the heart behind the text, or be in a context that reactivate the reading experience. And then also new echoes would emerge. In these ways, the texts keep echoing in the participants. But the echoes cannot be isolated to arrive from the text. It is the experience as a whole of being part of the reading group, meeting the other participants and meeting the text was about. And a participant expressed it with these words. It is like that butterfly effect or ripple effect. You start doing something and then it becomes big in your life. The reading group, has done so much. So I want to put attention to this time between a reading session, as it's not an empty space. And here you can really investigate the multi-layered nature of transformative reading. When a text and or reading experience keep echoing, then it might be an indicator for processes of change. And these echoes are also brought back to the next session. And in that way, it's a circular process, which is why a shared reading group need to run for some time before it might be or might have a more lasting impact on the participants. And this is the full model. It's just a draft to show you. I will work with simplifying it graphically, but without removing the complexity and all the processes in it. If you have any suggestions, I will be happy to hear from you. The theme resonances and echoes is what I will zoom on in my next paper. I will analyze transcript of a selected session from the reading groups and transcript from individual interviews to go in depth with their transformative reading experiences in relation to specific text. But still, keeping this multi-layered context of reading with others. I want to explore what is this something in the quote, which door opened up for it, and how did this experience look like? Was it transformative, and in which way? So stay tuned, and thank you very much for listening. You are very, very welcome to post your questions here on Concordance, at the conference, or after. You can also contact me on my email, which I have included on the slide. Have a very nice day and see you at IGEL.